Venom Battle Gear, where you can pick up your very own limited edition print of our Yugi mat with Dark Magician Girl, and Dark Magician of Chaos. Artwork is exclusively designed by Nixie Arts as well, so check out her link in the Instagram below. Pick it up for shipping worldwide. What's up YouTube, Dow here from Zephyr War Games, and today I am bringing you my top 10 rogue or underdog decks that I think you could easily be playing this format and do incredibly well with. Now, a lot of the recent information we have to go off of will be through LCSs and of course PPGs. Now, the PPGs have been using a custom ban list, but they are going to be returning to the original ban list as of Season 3, and it looks like we are going to be moving back to physical play. So, with all of those factors in mind, I have constructed a top 10 list of decks that I think you can pick up and play and still have incredible power with and do very, very well with. And I'll be bringing them to you in an exact order of 10 to 1, including some honourable mentions as well. With that out of the way, please smash the like button, hit the notification bell and subscribe so you do not miss out on any more Yu-Gi-Oh! News, content, profiles, the whole 9 yards. We are being kept very busy during lockdown, and once lockdown ends, we will still be kept very, very busy because once we go back to locals, we cannot wait. We will bring you just as much content, if not a little bit more. So, with that out of the way, let's get on to number 10 on our countdown list. Now, this number 10, again, I run this list past a lot of the team as well. And we kind of went through why we thought they were good enough, what we thought made them rogue, and kind of the potential that they had. So in number 10, we do have Cyber Dragons. Now, the reason that Cyber Dragons have gone in at number 10 is the fact that they have an incredible power to go second and OTK. Their biggest weakness is going first. However, now that we have moved outside of Master of 4, they still have the ability to set up Infinity, and if they were to use and abuse the engine floating around right now of like the Jet Synchron or some form of engine that way in order to build their board up even more and create more Omni Negates, they can certainly do so. Now, with that kept in mind, cards like this as well, or Cyber Dragons like this as well, also have the ability to kind of break away Omni Negates as well. Go in second, they go Cyber Dragon, clear your main threat off, go into like a Rampage, go into Chimera Tech, and then they can start using stuff like Super Poly, Power Bonds, everything to just go clear board, one shot, game. And that's what makes them incredibly powerful. Now, obviously, their biggest weakness right now is they're not entirely great at going first. They do have a massive weakness in that, which kind of leads to their downfall and their less representation. However, if piloted correctly, if you know the ins and outs, if you build them with the right hand traps and know both your going first plan and second plan, this deck can certainly grab you some very, very powerful wins and do a lot of damage towards the meta as well. Moving on swiftly to number 9. We do have, of course, Pendulums. Now, when I say Pendulums, we do mean like the Endymions, but we've also got Zephyrs as well. Now, the reason these aren't higher up the list is it actually requires a very, very good pilot to make this deck stand out. Now, obviously, Triff is probably one of the best Pendulum players around and does incredibly well with the deck. However, the deck that he tends to run, or the way that the deck kind of runs right now, except the Zephyr engine, is pretty much, here's my entire hand, here's my entire deck. Can you break it? If you cannot break it, you will lose. Simple as that. But we've seen on numberable amounts of times that if an opponent does break that board, the Pendulum player loses. So it is a one shot and probably the most powerful glass cannon around, because the board is incredibly powerful to break. Like, especially if you lose it up with the left hand or the right hand of the Magician, which negs the first spell played, which is going to be Dark Ruler no more. However, if you were to activate MST, Twin Twister, any other spell like that, that will then force that out. You can then declare to use the Dark Ruler no more, shut down the entire board, and then start picking it apart with the remaining 4 cards that you have. Very, very important, very, very powerful deck. And like I said, the consistency of it is a little bit low because it lost Electromite. It does have to play a heck of a lot of draw cards. But it has the ability to play said draw cards and burn through the deck quite easily, ending on their most powerful board of stuff like Vortex, plus Mighty Master, plus Jackal, and one other negate is always going to be damaging to an opponent. However, the fact that it is literally break it and win, it doesn't really stand up against the Adamancer players on a consistent basis, and it doesn't stand up against the Eldritch as well. There are a couple of decks that I haven't put into this list that I do consider meta. I decided not to do a top meta rating because you guys did ask for it, but I will mention them towards the end of this video as well. Moving in at number 8, ladies and gentlemen, is of course Orcas. Now, Orcas are a deck that I feel have incredibly underachieved right now. They received a very, very good introduction of Orcas Gearsu. It did just win the most recent PPG, but that was with Eldritch and Adamance players with their hands tied as well. However, Orcas are one of the best decks to actually be able to play and interact during your opponent's turn, and even before PPG put in their new list, they were seeing a little bit of play. I just feel that their consistency is so lackluster now that they lost Harp Horror. If Harp Horror was to come back at 1, you'd be sure as heck to see that deck getting played a lot more. Now keep in mind, a lot of players have started to play online because they were able to get access to the Adamance player cards, to the Eldritch cards, without having to spend loads and loads of money. When we go back to physical play, do not be surprised if you start seeing Orcas coming around a lot more, and the Eldritch and Adamance players' usage drop a little bit, because only the high class players are going to get into those decks, only the high class players are going to want to play those decks, and bear in mind, with no regionals, no Euros, and no Worlds actually announced or in place, there's not a lot to play for, so it's not really worth investing that huge amount of money, like £95 for a Golden Lord, for you to play it and win locals. Now, obviously, the OTS packs are a great draw, but until something massive is brought into play, do not be surprised if you see players that have gone from Orcas or Strikers into Adamance players and Eldritch play the Orcas and Strikers because they don't have to invest as much money. Especially mixing it with the Mechana engine, which we've seen most recently, also gives them a very, very nice powerful edge, and is a very, very nice combo to get them to scrap Recycler. The issue is a single Ash or an Imperm at the right time can really see their board crumble, and they can struggle to come back from it. So that is again one big issue with this deck. So if you look at Cyber Dragons, it was their guy in first place. If you look at Pendulum, it was their consistent plays over an elongated game. And then with Orcas, it is purely down to their consistency factor. Their consistency factor is so low right now that if it goes off and you're lucky for all 8 rounds or all 5 rounds, fair play, you're probably going to win. If you're unlucky, you will get trashed. And that's the biggest weakness and the biggest balance with Orcas right now. Moving on to number 7. We are going with Sky Strikers. Now, Sky Strikers, like Orcas, their consistency value is so low right now. Losing Engage pretty much kneecapped the deck completely, and if it wasn't for Ryan Yu taking it to the LCS and winning it, it wouldn't be seen as much play as it is. The deck is still very much functional. It can still use and abuse Mystic Mine like no other. It can use and abuse Hayate attack directly, it can loop its graveyard like no other. All it takes is Widow Anchor or Engage to come back to like 1 and Anchor to 2, and the deck would be even more playable. The consistency factor is what keeps this deck down, but again, do not be surprised if you start seeing players that were in love with the Striker deck come back and start playing it at your locals, and it will certainly pick up a lot more wins as well. The issue with the deck, or what makes the deck so powerful, is that once it gets going, if you give it time to get the grind game going, it will win. It is very hard to out-resource once it has its resources there, once it maintains its graveyard, its hand, and its board. If you can stop that happening, or if you're quick and faster at OTK in the deck, it will crumble and you will win, which is why it only sits at 7 on the list, because its consistency factor is so low right now that if you're able to stop it building, you will win. And there's a lot of decks right now, including the meta decks, that are able to do that on a consistent basis. Moving on to number 6. Now number 6, I think, has incredible potential right now, and that is Thunder Dragon Chaos. Now with the brand new cards we received in Toon Chaos, Thunder Dragon's actually got more playable. If it gets Colossus back to 1, broken. But the Nemesis and the Arch Nemesis as well, being the fact the Arch Nemesis don't have to destroy, they just need a valid target, is ridiculous. Like, beyond broken. Whoever decided to go, okay, we're going to create a card that says it locks you and your opponent out of special summoning a certain type of monster or a certain attribute of monster, but it doesn't have to destroy it to resolve. It just has to have a valid target. Like, that's crazy. Even if it was to destroy, I don't think it's that bad. But the fact that it can still keep a 3k Arch Nemesis monster on board, and with Reaper Donkeys call whatever they want, nuke your opponent's board, or lock your opponent out completely once they know what they're playing, you then go next turn, and that's where your Thunder Dragon Titan comes into play, and you start going Titan pop, Titan pop, Titan pop. Arch Nemesis, attack for game, done. And I think that is personally crazy, because the way you've got to think about it is, your Arch Nemesis will be 3k, and then you bring your Titan on, which is 32. Straight away, you've got 62 on board. Then if you add anything to that, so plus your Reaper Donkus and then any other monster, like a normal summon that you have in a deck, or a Thunder Dragon, you're winning game. And I just think that's beyond weird. Like a card shouldn't be like that. Now the biggest issue with this deck right now is that it does rely on banishing, so if you stop that, you can really, really hurt it. It also really, really relies on being able to get to the Arch Nemesis, being able to call the correct attribute as well. So if they don't open up that section, their first turn play used to be Colossus Protect, is no longer available to them. If I don't get to the Arch Nemesis, their board is literally going to be, okay, we're going to try and wall up, or we're going to try and tighten as much as we can. Now keep in mind, there's only 2 quick play targets for Titan, so it's only going to be able to maximum pop twice during your turn. So if you're able to ride that or get rid of that, then you're not worrying about it at all. The Arch Nemesis is your biggest threat, and if you're able to Nibiru or stop that happening or stop that getting to the board, the deck will crumble. So it does have its weak points, but it also has incredible power levels as well. Let's keep in mind that the Thunder Dragons actually instigate some incredible power plays, and alongside with the other engines, with the Chaos cards that you're putting in there, like the Chaos Dragon Levianeer to rip from the hand or pop on the field, the Chaos Creator to revive from the Banish Zone, no matter what it is, and recycle, is insane. And you're able to then instigate rank 8 plays should you want to, consistently bring out the Reaper Donkers for your Arch Nemesis plays, and then of course consistently bring out your Titan as well for either the go second or the first turn plays as well for even more disruption. So for example, if you were to Arch Nemesis and then back that up with a Titan with at least 1 quick play on board, your opponent's going to have to go, alright, well I don't want to die next turn, so I better set a card, and they're just going to go, cool, Titan, end phase, pop, bring around, Titan, discard Thunder Dragon, pop your back row, discard Thunder Dragon, pop the back row, free to attack, I don't need to summon anymore, so I'm not worried about Nibiru, game. And that's really what makes this deck incredibly powerful. Exactly like I said, it's consistency factor, the fact that it can either open up really well, open up really badly, and then get into the Arch Nemesis, and knowing what your opponent is playing to make full effect of that card, really, really does break the balance of it a little bit more. If Colossus was back to 1, then it wouldn't have an issue, because its first turn can easily be a Colossus Protect alongside an Arch Nemesis Lockout, which to me is beyond. Anyway, moving on to the halfway point of this video. So of course, we're going to go with Mech Invite. Now, Mech Invite, I think, are incredibly powerful, and again, we've seen them a lot in the PPG, making it up to the final rounds, but again, that is with a neutered ban list. What makes Mech Knight Invoked incredibly powerful is the fact that if they can go second, they can produce an insane board. They can just go, as long as you give them columns, you go Mech Knight, search, Mech Knight, Alistar, Macabre to protect from Nibiru on my 5th summon, OTK. And they're playing the Rainbow Neos engine. So it's just like, okay, protect, Rainbow Neos, spin back row, spin front row, spin graveyard, game. Like, it's insane the power ceilings of those fusion monsters. The biggest downside with the Mech Knight Invoked engine is purely because the Mech Knights need to go second. They are very, very bad at going first. And once you know what your opponent is playing, you will play around their columns. You will not give them columns to play with. We did see yesterday in the PPG stream, depending on what day this video goes out, or the other day on the PPG stream, that the Invoked players, or the Mech Knight Invoked players, actually have the ability to make VFD, but if it gets blown out, again, they put so much resource into doing it that they will lose as well. So their first turn boards aren't as near impressive as their second turn, and just by thinking a little bit, playing around with your columns, not giving them anything to go off to, you could easily beat the deck. But its power ceiling, its power level, its Rainbow Neos plays, its Macabre plays, alongside Mech Knight plays as well, can be incredibly powerful. Which is why I think it has the power level and consistency above the rest of the other 10. But its first turn play is just as weak as the Cyber Dragon play, in my opinion. Because Cyber Dragons are going to go Infinity on their 5th summon, this deck is probably going to go Macabre on their 5th summon. So you've got that negate, but after that, there's not really a lot else you can go for, apart from playing like there can only be one, and some other floodgates, which you're only going to side in later on anyway. Now, moving into the top 4. Now, the 4th spot and the 3rd spot are kind of shared, but I've put one above the others just purely because it has a main deck out to probably one of its biggest weaknesses around right now. So I'm going to do these in tandem. So 4th place is actually Altergeist. Now, Altergeist were probably one of the biggest benefactors of the most recent ban list, being able to get their multi-faker back to free. Now, it doesn't change the deck drastically, it just means that a player playing Altergeist doesn't have to be so cautious and so protected of their one multi-faker. They can actually go, I've got 3 of you now. Okay, multi-faker, multi-faker, multi-faker. You get a multi-faker, and you get a multi-faker, and I get a multi-faker. Anyway, incredibly powerful, very, very disruptive. Their biggest weakness, again, great control deck. Like, only one other, in my opinion, is a better control deck that has the same kind of setup than they are. and that is number 3, and we'll get to that in a second. But number 1, they have to go first. They complete opposite to the Mech Knights. Their power plays, they don't have any OTK potential. However, their first turn boards are sometimes incredibly headache to deal with. You're looking at Protocol, you're looking at Multi-Faker into Seal Coitus, backed up with a Spoofing or an Imperm or Imperial Order, alongside Extravagance being one of the best draw cards for them, comboing that off with anything else or any other hand traps you want to play. Melisix, which just attacks for 500 and sends. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. But it sucks against Lightning Storm. Simple as that. Has to go first, and when it does go first, if you are not cautious enough as an Orcas player, your opponent can just go, Lightning Storm, clearly back row. If you haven't got a judgment, you've lost. Simple as that. Because there's so many power play decks that you just go, Lightning Storm, clear back row. Even if you've got a Concuri in hand, I'm just going to get rid of your monster. You can't Concuri me during the battle phase. Attack for game. Done. And that is its biggest weakness, is that it has to play, and it's also the weakness of number 3 as well, is that it has to play reserved. A control deck that, even if your opponent goes, it's fine, I'll let you go first, I ain't gonna worry about that, you still have to play reserved. You can't go set 5 and pass unless you have a judgment. And then once you do set 5 and pass, you're either saying to your opponent, I don't reckon you've got a Lightning Storm, I'm going to call your bluff, or you're saying, I don't care if you've got a Lightning Storm, I've got a judgment there. So if your opponent goes, okay, Lightning Storm, you play judgment of 4k, Lightning Storm again, attack for game, you've just made my job easier because you halved your own life points. It's so damaging. That is why I think the deck suffers. I think it's so much better than the other decks because it can control the board and it can slightly build back, because the way it kind of works is you go first, you win that game. You go second, you lose that game. You go first in game 3, you're probably going to win it because you're going to try and control as much as you possibly can. And if your opponent does not have a Lightning Storm, especially when we get back to physical play, less players are going to have access to Lightning Storm. The deck is actually going to be incredibly powerful. Now, number 3, exactly like Orcas, is of course Subterrors. Now, the reason I put this above Orcas is because it does have a main deck out that does not cost them 4,000 life points to stop Lightning Storm, and that is of course Subterra Fiendess. Now, this has been mentioned a lot of times to me that people think that Subterra Fiendess is probably the best hand trap in the game. True, if it wasn't archetype specific. It is an omni-negating hand. It's better than Ash, it's better than Maxi, it's better than anything like that tries to negate. Because it can negate anything it wants, apart from counter trap. But it's also one of the worst hand traps in the sense that it does need another component to work. So whereas Ash is just send, done, Fiendess is send, but I need to have this as well. But that is why it's so much better, and that's why I put it above Geist, is because it naturally has an out to Lightning Storm. The deck can set 5, and as long as it's got a Guru, the combo of Hidden City, Guru, set Guru, Hidden City, flip Guru, search out Fiendess is insane. Like, that's such a good combo. Because then that is all from one card that you've been able to get a monster on board, plus you've got a Fiendess in hand. So the other 4 cards you have could be anything. They could be Imperms, Judgments, absolutely anything you want it to be. Final battles, set it, pass, done. The other thing that I think puts them a little bit above Orcas as well is purely because they do have Final Battle, which does give the deck a little bit more punch than Orcas as well. And the fact that the Final Battle just goes reset, 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 and it can also dodge Call by the Grave is nutty beyond belief. Alongside the little tech where people play Skill Drain as well, because you can actually play Skill Drain, play Battle, and make Battle, the effects can't be negated, so then Skill Drain doesn't work. And it's like, okay, cool, I guess we go with that one then. But that is why I feel that Subterrors just pick Geist. Again, incredibly good at going first, very, very bad at going second. They do then have to adapt and dig into their side deck in order to break boards, but they still have a lot of power plays as well and a lot of control plays that kind of get them through to the end. Now moving on to number 2 on this list. Number 2, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I don't know whether you count this as meta or rogue. I kind of wanted to put this at 1, but I think the other one that I've put at 1 is just better. And that is Madolches. Pure Madolches. Some of you might consider this meta. If you do, by all means, you can take that out and you can put one of my honourable mentions in here at this position as well. But Madolches, again, they've got a very, very good first turn board now. With the introduction of Pomerade and Salon, they get an additional normal summon and they get a card that is basically like an imperm that shuts off anything. So, very, very powerful going first. However, their first turn board is literally a wall. If you can break the Great Wall of Madolche, you will probably win. If you don't and you let them go second, they will win. They have got one of, if not the most powerful rank 4 in the game. Again, exactly like Subterra Fiendes. If it was generic, it would be banned. Simple as that. The fact that the Madolches can go into Tiramisu, detach, target 2 in my graveyard. Any response? Nope. Okay, those 2 are going back to the deck. Oh wait, but I want to check. Nope. Non-target. They're back into the deck, bro. You're done. Insane. The deck is very, very powerful. It has good balance going first and insane power going second. The fact it's got like 2 or 3 one-card combos that lead to the OTK is absolutely nutty. Insane. Which is why it borderlines, in my opinion, on meta. I just feel that it really, really does struggle against the other decks that I say are meta, or that I believe are the meta decks. Very, very powerful. Donald will say, Madolche are meta, no matter what. Actually, no, I'll take that back. He'll probably say, Madolche are the best road deck around, but they can never be meta because if they are, they'll start getting banned, and he doesn't want that, which is fair enough. But yeah, for sure, I think Madolche, one of the best decks going second. They've got so much consistency, and as long as they can play through a couple of negates, they will win. Their first turn board is a lot more impressive than it was prior to Eternity Code, but it's still a very, very big weakness of the deck. And if going second, if you can stop them enough, you will probably win the game from there on as well. Their consistency is great. Only times when they really, really dilute the deck with their side engine does it start to slowly fall apart. And that's why we have seen this combination of Guru Dolce, which we've been seeing on the PPG streams, purely because Guru, insane going first, bad going second. Madolche's insane going second, okay going first. So if you mix the 2 together, as long as you get the engine right, you've got an insane first turn and an insane second turn. Now, before we get on to number 1, I'm going to take you through my honourable mentions, and then I'll also take you through the decks that I consider to be meta right now, and why they didn't feature on the list, because you're probably going, why haven't you put that there? Calm down. I'm getting there. So, the honourable mentions are as follows. Heroes, Generators, Muskets, and Plunders. Why are these honourable mentions and not in the top 10 list? I hear you cry. Purely because of these exact reasons. Plunders, very, very good, but they rely on your opponent way too much. If your opponent is smart, and I've seen this many a times watching the PPG streams, if your opponent does not put a fire, dark, or even a light in their graveyard, you are stuck. Unless you get into the trap card to turn an attribute, you are stuck playing the same Blackbeard draw, trying to get to that card. Plus the fact that Ash Blossom on the Blackbeard, or any of your monsters that want to try and tag out, mainly the Blackbeard, goes, cool. I guess I can't do that play. Pass. And then the deck gets pulled apart. Generators, incredibly good, but I don't see VFD surviving. They're not so good going second. They can really, really fall to going second. They need to go first in order to get the field spell to resolve. But again, they resolve around a field spell. If you stop a field spell, the deck will fall apart. Now they do have other cards that can protect the field spell, bring the field spell back, and the field spell isn't a hard once per turn to summon a generator from the deck. The introduction of Lockbar and Heart are incredibly powerful in the deck as well. However, they rely on VFD. VFD is their first turn power played card. If that goes, the deck will crumble and will not see as much play as I would really, really like it to. The deck itself is quite powerful and is fun, but again, you're also building a deck resolving around level 9s. You are asking to brick. Very good deck, very, very fun to play, but personally to me, doesn't even hit the Rogue top 10. The last 2 we've got Muskets. Muskets are actually a very, very underrated deck. They're okay going first, believe it or not, but going second, they're very, very good. The only issue is, to go second and get the most out of it, they need to get into their Link Monster. And if you can stop their Link Monster going off, or if you can stop them getting into the Link Monster or negate it, they will crumble. And that's what makes the deck so good. It's great that they've got spells and traps coming from the hand, so that kind of null and voids most of the monster effect negations on the board that your opponent will have. But they can burn through resources quite quickly. They do rely on their Link Monster, and if you stop that, it will fall apart. Simple as that. The last one on the honourable mentions is one that I really wanted to put in the top 10, but then after I was speaking to some of the team, I kind of understood and was like, yeah, you're right, it's not quite there yet. And that's Heroes. Heroes are very, very good going first, very, very good going second, but they run head first into any hand trap, they will fall. Ghost Over, they will fall. Ash Blossom, they will fall. Imperm, they will fall. Nibiru, they will fall. Both going both first and second. You stop their Faris. As soon as they're locked into heroes, they've got no way to try and negate or stop the cards that you're going to drop from your hand on top of them. And they're just going to go, guess I'm not making that play. Dark Law, one of the best fusion monsters in my opinion. They've got incredibly powerful plays. They can OTK very, very easily, especially with Malicious Bane. But if stopped at the right time, if stopped correctly, the deck will crumble. And that is why it didn't make it into the top 10. Before we get on to the number 1 again, the meta decks that I am considering meta are as follows. Adamanticators, no surprise there. Eldritch, no surprise there. Dinos and Salamangreats. Now, the reason Dinos are in there is because the Wind Barrier Statue combo, incredibly powerful, and if resolves will lock everybody out of playing, plus their OTK potential, and they have one of the best boss monsters or main deck boss monsters in the game. Salamangreats, again, incredibly powerful. Their management resource is beyond like words, and then being able to get into the access code talker so easily is great. However, they will falter to Nibiru very, very hard unless they set up a raw prior. Eldritch and Adamanticators need very, very little. With the PPG, of course, Block Dragon we have seen, if Block Dragon goes, the deck will crumble. No one will play the deck. So, luckily, when we go back to physical play, it will still be one of, if not the best deck. The combo-orientated plays can dodge around the Biru, can play through multiple hand traps, and set up a triple Omni-Negate board is beyond belief. And then, of course, you've got Eldritch. Eldritch consistency factor is through the roof. Its power plays with the Golden Lord, again, is through the roof. It's not combo orientated, so it does kind of dodge stuff like Ashes, Imperms, and Nibirus. And then being able to, if you include the Synchron engine as well, they're either getting a draw 4, or they're getting a double on the negate, or they're going for the VFD play. They've got a lot of versatility and a lot of plays to make, and the deck will survive and flourish once we get back to physical play. And if they want to keep the decks alive, for when we go back to high ranking events like regionals and that, do not be surprised if they dominate the top cuts all around the place. So, you've waited more than long enough. What is my number 1 on my list? My number 1 on the list is a deck that I feel is one of the best and just disappeared off the face of the earth with no explanation. Literally, it was doing really, really well. It was being used, it was being played, it was showing so much interaction, and then you just went, oh, Eldritch and Adamanticators, I'm going to go play those. And that is Invoke Shaddolls. Now, Invoke Shaddolls, why do I think this is number 1? Because it has incredible power going first, incredible power going second. Winder is still one of the most scariest kind of power cards to just go, Winder, pass. Can you get a 2300 beater on board without trying to destroy my card, and then beat it with only special summoning once? No, I can't. Okay, I guess I'll win that one then, because my next turn, I'm just going to go Borrow Sword. I'm going to back my Winder up with an Invoke Macabre. I'm also going to use my Shaddoll Fusion to send from my deck to the graveyard to bring out a Construct, which is now back at 3. I'm also going to have my Magical Meltdown, so you can't respond, you can't negate, blah, 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 blah. Power. It's so, so good. Now, again, it can run into a Nibiru, it can run into multiple hand traps. Ash Blossom on a Shaddoll Fusion sucks, but the recyclability from the graveyard, to be able to management resource is there. The consistency to search out particular elements that it needs is there. The involvement of the Invoked is incredibly powerful and useful for the deck. It gives it the normal summon. You don't really want to normal summon any of your Shaddoll monsters. You want to be sending them to the graveyard. Not to mention, if you wanted to mix in a Chaos Engine just to a little bit more spice and a little bit more power, you can do. The deck has a huge amount of potential, and I can't figure out why it has not done more. Now, the only reason I can figure out that it has not done more is purely because there are so many people with access online with Lightning Storms and just Imperns and general board break-in plays, especially with the Eldritch matchup as well, as the Eldritch just go, okay, Golden Lord, send the Winder, get that out of here. Or they don't even really need to special summon that much. So, I do think that when we get back to physical play, it will be highly represented, because a lot of people have got the Shaddoll decks, they're going to stick with those Shaddoll decks without buying into Adamanticators or Eldritch, and they're going to put on a show for you. So do not, and I'm telling you now, do not sleep on that deck. That deck will put in some work, that will put in some power, and I think it topples the rest purely because its go first level is average. It's good, it's not bad, okay? Its go second play is, again, good. Actually quite powerful if your opponent leaves an extra monster on board. Its consistency factor is quite good. It is the most balanced deck of all the top 10. It has a balance of first, second, search power, management resource. It's got it all. Very, very powerful deck. When it goes off, it will win 9 times out of 10. And Construct with Winder, with Macabre, with Sword, it just keeps on going. And it's very, very powerful. I honestly think, I'm surprised it's not doing more.
But that is why I made it number 1 on this list. I think it's insanely powerful, and like I said, it's just generally got the best balance of all the other 10 decks. Now, by all means, please let me know your top 10 or even your top 3 in the comments down below. Let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with, if there's any reasons for particular decks that I might have missed that you feel would want to be in here. Of course, if I was doing it out of my own personal opinion, it would be Dark Magician at number 1 all the way to Dark Magician at number 10, just different variants. This Dark Magician, Fusion Dark Magician, Ritual Dark Magician Girl, Dark Magician with the Paladins, Dark Magician this, Dark Magician that. But I try to make it fair, I try to make it round, and that's why you've got this top 10. I know this is a long video, but I hope this explained it, I hope this helped, I hope this also gave you a couple of ideas for your own build, especially when you're getting back to physical play as well, what type of deck to pick up. If you have Salamangreats and you want to keep it on a budget, that is the number 1 deck to go for. If you have Shadows, but you don't have Salamangreats, Shadows, in my opinion, is the number 1 deck to go for. If you have access to Dinos, Adamant Spades and Eldritch, go for those, they're the meta decks. But if you're like, I don't want to be a basic meta, I'm going to go for one of these 10, certainly do so, because these 10, I'm telling you right now, will put up a fight. If you already have most of the cards, go with those ones, and they will do incredibly well as well. But for now, thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, please smash the like button, hit the notification bell, and subscribe so you do not miss out on any more Yu-Gi-Oh! Content, news, reviews, the whole 9 yards. As always, guys, stay safe and happy dueling.